Hello, everybody. Welcome to Troop Talk Live. It's a cool spring, rainy afternoon here in Texas. Hope you guys are doing well. You know Angelique. How are you, Angelique?
I'm good. How are you?
Doing very well. Thank you. I'm Aaron. I'll be guiding the discussion today. Angelique is our expert. She's a volunteer, just like all of you are out here. And we had an idea for a show today that is an interesting topic. I'll admit, I don't know that much about this, nearly as much as I should. So when Angelique brought this up as a opportunity to do a show, I said, that's a great idea. We're talking about something called Introduction to Leadership Skills for Troops. Let's get started, Angelique. What is Introduction to Leadership Skills for Troops?
Okay, so the short name for it, because you know we like our acronyms, is
We love acronyms.
ILST. So when you hear someone say ILST, this is what we're talking about. Introduction to Leadership Skills for Troops is a training held at the troop level that helps teach all of the scouts their roles, positions, and responsibilities in a troop. So that means like your senior patrol leader and your patrol leaders and your quartermaster and your scribe, they're youth. This is usually the first time they've done something like this. This helps them understand their roles and how to be good leaders in their troop.
Yeah, I think this is a great thing. I mean, we all know, I think, that Scouts BSA troops are youth-led, right? I think we say guided by adults, right? Obviously, there's adult supervision, but it's the youth who should be doing the leadership. Obviously, understandably, these 13, 14, 15, 16, whatever, maybe they've never done this before, and we want to give them the skills to succeed. You touched on this real quick, Angelique, but I would like to expand on this before we go on. Positions of leadership for youth. Can you give us an example? Senior patrol leader is one that I think we've all heard of, but there's a lot of them, right?
They're positions of responsibility, which is a little bit different than positions of leadership.
Yes,
positions of responsibility, and they are like I said, the senior patrol leader. So that's the senior youth leader of the unit of the troop, and then the patrol leaders and quartermaster and scribes. So like quartermaster takes care of items and things and maybe your trailer or your equipment, and scribe takes notes in the meeting and makes sure everyone's communicated. There's a whole big list in their scout handbook that explains what all the different leadership positions are. And how often do we hear the kids get elected to those positions and they don't have a clue what they're supposed to be doing? And this is the tool that teaches them what they're supposed to be doing, because scouting is a learning lab for leadership and for learning these skills. So this is one of the tools that we use to help make sure that they know what they're supposed to be doing.
Awesome. Quick shout out to Rusty, who's watching from Pack 84 in New Philadelphia, Ohio. Deb says, hi, Angelique.
Hi, Deb.
Angelique says, hi, Deb. Fred says something that I 100% agree with. Angelique, you are an awesome scouter.
Hi, Fred.
Fred knows. He knows the truth. Matt posts some good advice. Train them, trust them, let them lead. Thank you, Matt. Appreciate that. Another thing you said, Angelique, that I kind of struck me as interesting and I think fairly significant is that this is not a training that's presented, say, at, you have to go to Philmont. It's not like it is not a national level or even a council level training. When you say it is run at the unit level, can you expand on that a little bit? What does that mean?
It is. So we'll talk about this, I think, a little later, but it is part of a continuum of training for youth. This is the introductory level training for youth leadership. And it is meant to be delivered at the troop level. So it's not something that's delivered at the district or the council or the national level. This is for you to deliver in your troop at the troop level. So it's usually should be run in partnership with the senior patrol leader and the scoutmaster. They're working together to teach. And then as the scouts are learning, we're bringing on other older scouts to help facilitate the learning. And we can talk about that as we go. But it is definitely something that the scouts run with the scoutmaster. But if you've never done it before with your troop, then you may need a little guidance. And it's okay to ask for help for that. So your council training chair or your district training chair, or even another scoutmaster who has run it before with their unit, I'm sure would be happy to help you make sure you understand what needs to be done so that you can run it with your unit.
And then so how often are we talking, Angelique?
Yeah, this should be done every year, surprisingly. It should be done anytime your leadership group changes, your core leadership in your unit. So when your scouts have an election and they elect a whole new group of youth leadership, this module, this training is meant to be run with that new group of leadership so that they are learning their different roles, because, ideally their roles are changing as they are switching to new and different positions of leadership. So they're learning together how to form a leadership team. And so you should run it at that time every time you do it. So whether your unit is doing that 1 year, every year, or every 6 months, that new leadership team should have this training every year.
And so to be clear, Angelique, and I'm asking this mostly because I don't know, but maybe there's some of our viewers who don't know either. A youth serving a position of responsibility, that's not a lifetime appointment, right? They have a term
Correct.
that they
Correct.
serve.
Yeah.
And hopefully they serve multiple different positions, I think,
Mhm.
is the idea.
Mhm.
They're learning different things. Obviously, when they change positions, they might not be familiar with that new position.
Right.
So that's why we offer that training yearly or whatever it is. Am I getting that right?
Yeah, you are. And it's also about that group of youth. So ideally you can run this for the whole troop, but you can also just run it for the leadership core, the new team. So it kind of depends on how you want to do that. And I'm seeing a comment about it's hard to do that when you only have 5 or 6 scouts. The minimum we recommend is 6 scouts to run the training, because it works best with that amount of scouts. If you have 5 or 6 scouts and you want to have a different experience, you can partner with another troop that's in your area to offer it together. And that is a way to offer with more youth involved. Especially if you are a new unit, this is a fantastic, and we can talk a little bit about what the actual training modules are. If you are a new unit, you're starting up a new unit and the kids have never done this before, this is a great training to run, but it might need to be led a little bit more heavily on the adult side, where the adults are facilitating more of the modules the very first time you run it. And then after that, it can be more youth led.
And I think that's pretty understandable, right? A brand new troop, they're not going to have obviously necessarily an SPL with tons of experience
Right.
by the fact that they're a brand new troop. So that's okay. That's one thing that I kind of like about the Scouts BSA program, not to get too off topic there. But okay, so I think we've kind of established what it is in general. We've established who it's for. We've established how often we should do it. What are the purposes of establishment? I'm sorry, your question that you wrote out for me, Angelique. 2 key purposes of this course are the establishment of personal goals. Can you expand on that a little bit?
Yeah, so sometimes this is the first time that the youth have learned how to write goals for themselves. So in the part of this training is helping them write their goal for what they want to accomplish during their tenure in this position that they're currently serving in. So maybe it's as a scribe, they want to make sure that the meeting minutes are published within 24 hours of the meeting or something. They're learning how to set that goal and that vision for what their tenure in their service is going to look like. So that's part of it. That's one of the first things that we're teaching with this course. The other is the effective formation of the youth leadership team. So just like we talked about before, it's that group of scouts learning to work together, hopefully learning to work together for the first time really well. And some of the activities and some of the things they talk about are teaching them, what does that entail exactly?
In the comments, Miranda says they did theirs with a couple of other units over the winter. Like you said, maybe combining with other units, Angelique. Michelle says they did theirs this past weekend. They said it was great. Very, very cool. All right, so let's talk about the structure of the training itself.
Okay.
Angelique, maybe you can give us an overall. How long are we talking here? Is this something you do during one troop meeting, 45 minutes and you're done? Or what are we talking like time-wise here?
Okay, there are 3 modules and they take about 60 to 90 minutes each. So you can have a day of it and power through the whole thing where you've decided to do the whole thing. You can break it up into several meetings. So when my girls unit started for the very first time, we took the first 3 meetings of the troop, of the newly formed troop, and ran this for the very first 3 meetings of the troop. You can also also do it over a weekend. So both of my troops, we will make it a camp out over a weekend camp out, where it's a camp out where we're working through all 3 modules. So there are the 3 modules of 60 to 90 minutes each. They can take a little bit longer if you add in all the games, because games are fun, right? We want to have the fun part, so it's not just all talking. But the games, the first module is on troop organization. It tells you about the positions of responsibilities in the troop, and it tells you the troop's general organization, and it intros into what vision and leadership, servant leadership mean. Module 2 covers some leadership skills like communicating and planning and teaching. And then module 3 talks about teamwork, and it talks about team development. And those are some great concepts, and that all the scouts need to know to be really successful in what they're doing. And this is going to be their first taste of it, is in this training.
Gwen says that she's having trouble loading some of the videos in the syllabus. Gwen, we'll check on that. Thanks for bringing that to our attention. Unless you already know, Angelique, we will look into that. But
yeah, we'll look. But I do know that the website, there's a lot of restructuring going on right now, and there are a lot of updates going on right now. So if something's not available, it will be available soon.
Thank you, Gwen. We apologize for the delay. Yeah, we'll get that fixed shortly. Shout out to John, who's watching from Troop 38 in Elgin, Illinois. John is a regular viewer. Good to see you again, sir. Okay, so 3 modules. And I'm sorry, I know you mentioned this, Angelique. This is generally led by a scoutmaster and or assistant scoutmasters and or older youth. Is that the idea?
It's not necessarily older youth.
Okay.
It is your senior patrol leader. And
this doesn't have to be older necessarily.
No,
right?
It does not have to be older.
Right.
And it also should be the youth who have taken it several times, so they're familiar with it. They should start being introduced to teaching it, to being a trainer for it. So whether that's they start learning to teach some of the games, or yes, there's a good comment, 7 times straight. I would say if you've been a member of it and received it as training, after a couple of times, you start to teach some of the content, because that is how we learn really well, is by teaching others, right? Because you learn to internalize it when you're teaching it. So those scouts who have done it several times, they should start facilitating it for the other scouts, and then the adults should start to step back and let the youth run more of it.
Awesome. Shout out to David, who's watching from Troop 59 in Topeka, Kansas. Thank you for watching, David. Appreciate that. So the syllabus itself, Angelique, is it a script? Is it sort of a scripted guide? Can you give us an idea of how it is? You know, if you're a facilitator, are you just reading off a script? How does that work?
So yeah, this is meant to be really easy for you to deliver, especially those who are new to delivering this kind of content. So it is very scripted, meaning it has lists of all the supplies that you need. It has lists of all the activities, direction for all the activities, and you just follow it down the list. So it'll say this, and then you lead this discussion, and then do this activity. So it is very easy to pick up and go with. That being said, some people are really uncomfortable because they've never done anything like that before. So that's where you can ask for help. And when I talked about earlier about asking counselor, district training chair, or another scoutmaster who's done it before to come in and help. And I know the first time that my troop ran it hadn't been run in my boys' troop in a really long time. And we asked another scoutmaster who was familiar with it to come in and help coach our unit through it.
Shout out to Molly, who's watching from Troop 179 in New Fairfield, Connecticut. Marianne, hello from Troop 12 in Virginia Beach, Virginia. James says he's 31. James, you're so young. You're 31 years old. He says ILST has been around 15 years, so it's changed a lot over the years. I'm sure that's true, Angelique. I'm sure it's gone through updates like all of our programs, right, to stay relevant and things like that, right?
Yeah, it's gone through updates. It'll continue to go through updates. And but the thing is, even though it's been around for a long time, there are always new people coming into scouting, and they may not know about it. I get asked all the time, what is this ILST? My troop has never run it. And so one of the things that my goal is here is to make sure everybody know that that exists as a resource, because it's really helpful, especially in units where the kids are like, I don't know, I'm scribe, I don't know what I should be doing. This really, really helps them with that.
And you kind of touched on this a second ago, Angelique, but I want to maybe discuss this a little bit more if we could. Let's just say, for example, you've got a brand new scout who's interested in assuming a lead role of responsibility. Maybe they start off something like scribe, something like that. They take ILST. They're going to move on to different roles. Do they retake it? Is it okay for them to do it multiple times?
It's okay. Like we touched on before, it's okay for them to be a part of it multiple times, because each time, if your troop is large enough, especially, you're going to have different youth who are in those leadership positions. So they're learning to function together in a different way. So yes, they can take it multiple times, and then they become the teachers after they've taken it several times. And then there are things beyond this, that this is just the first step in youth leadership training.
Right. And so as a child takes the course once or twice, they are, in a sense, I guess they're absorbing this information, just like you said. How do we know when they're ready to become a facilitator? Is that something that we sort of, okay, it's time to push the little bird out of the nest? I wonder if you could share some advice on that.
So here's the thing about teaching and leadership. I think you learn by doing it sometimes. And it's up to us adults to really make sure that the kids are supported and learn from the experience. So it's not just dump them into the training role and say, okay, good luck. It's our job to make sure they're prepared, to make sure, okay, what do you need to do to prepare for this? Would you like to practice with me? And making sure that you're the scaffolding to help them be successful. And they learn by doing. So after they've had it a few times, pretty much most scouts should be able to at least help facilitate a game the next time around. So that's on us. That's what we do. We're there to make sure they're safe, and we're help scaffolding them learn those leadership skills.
Shout out to Perry from Troop 1721 in Trenton, Michigan. David, I don't know if we're going to have the answer to this question or not, but I'll throw it out to Angelique. Do you know about updates to this program, Angelique, and specifically like what has changed recently or over the last few years?
So I don't know where this is on the slate of being updated. I would have to ask Scouting U, but that's something that we could look into and find out.
Yeah.
There's a
question, David, but
lot of things updated right now. So right. I think it's just when a new one's available, it'll be put on the website.
Yep. Scott says, hi, Angelique. Shout out from the Heartland District WD Boyce Council. Thank you, Scott. Appreciate that. Yeah, Wolfgang, it is useful to run the program, for youth to run it, to experience it themselves, and then become teachers later. We kind of touched on that a little bit earlier. I think that you basically hit on it. That's exactly what it is. Yeah, Wolfgang watching from Germany. Very, very cool. Yeah. So maybe if you're okay with it. So Angelique, I'm just guessing you've facilitated this course.
Yes, I've been part of it in many times.
Maybe you can go over for our readers. Maybe we can get into a little bit more, and we're not going to take the whole course right now, obviously, but maybe we could talk a little bit more specifically about how it looks. Is it mostly someone standing up in front of a room and talking? I bet you don't want it to be like a lecture, right?
Right. It's not a lecture. It is, what's a good way to put it? It's little demonstrations and a little bit of like, hey, let's talk about this. And then they play a game, and then they debrief the game and say, okay, let's talk about how this relates to what we just talked about. It's more about facilitating meaningful discussions. I think one really good activity, and you'll see it if you read it, but one really good activity is having the scout hold an armful of balloons and pass along these items that have to be done, these responsibilities. So the SPL is holding and dropping all of these balloons or balls, and they're saying, okay, what if I give each one of you these items, the balloons or balls or whatever, and then everyone holds one or two instead of one person holding a whole bunch. And that's a really objective, it's a great way to visualize what delegating is like, right? So it's an activity. It's kind of fun. It's a little bit like a skit. It helps them get a visual of what delegating and looks like. So we don't have a SPL who's trying to do it all, right? Because we've all seen the kids. They don't know. We've seen adults who do that. They don't know better. So it's teaching how to delegate as a leadership skill.
I
And
feel like
that's
you're
one
talking
of
about me when you say that, Angelica. But yes, I do know what you mean. Gwen says their council lists ILST as a prereq for participation in YLT, which is, I think maybe that's one of the things you were talking about, Angelique. That's kind of a next level.
right.
ILST is just sort of the beginning, right? It's just the start.
Yeah. So, okay. ILST is a unit level leadership training, right? So it's the basic, it's the baseline. The next step in the continuum of youth leadership training is NYLT, and that is the National Youth Leadership Training. And that is at the council level, right? And it is a training that happens kind of like Wood Badge for adults, because guess what? There's also a training continuum for adults. But it is kind of like Wood Badge. It is for the scouts. It is teaching them leadership skills in a week-long program where they're working in patrols and they're learning all these leadership skills next level. Okay. Then after that, surprise, surprise, there's that third. There's 1, 2, 3. There is the NAIL, National Advanced Youth Leadership Experience, and that is at 2 of the high adventure bases. And actually, I think it's offered at more than just the high adventure bases. There are a couple places that it's offered at. And it is the national level youth leadership training that can happen, that is teaching scouts out in the backcountry to apply some of the leadership skills that they've learned in this whole continuum of leadership. So there are lots of opportunities for scouts to grow. Scouting is all about teaching youth how to be good leaders in the community. So those scouts who really enjoy it, we have this whole continuum of training that they can really go next level and learn how to be great, amazing leaders.
Yeah, one of the many things that the Scouts BSA program gets is the idea of mixing fun
Right.
with learning. And a lot of times I think the youth, they don't even realize they're learning. They're really just having fun, which is kind of the whole idea. Alex says they're teaching ILST on Saturday in Tigard, Oregon, I think, Alex. Very, very cool. Amy, shout out to Amy from Troop 103 in Jamesville. Cheers to Glory from Troop 346 in Negaunee, Michigan. Very, very cool. George says at Troop 123 in Boise, they just did ILST on a campout. It was really engaging with the youth. Balloon activity was a great way to start the training. Very, very cool. Yeah, Angelique, if since you've facilitated the training before, you've seen other people facilitating the training before. Maybe if let's say there's someone watching who says, "Yeah, I really want to do this with my youth. I'm a little bit nervous about it." Obviously, there's help. You mentioned that before, but what kind of advice would you give to those folks who've never done it before and they're ready to take that first step and do it at the unit level?
Sure. So there's a website that behind the scenes Brian popped up briefly on the page, and I'm sure while I'm talking, there it is. It's going to pop up again. And you can go to that website and you see the whole continuum of training. And if you click on ILST, there is a link to the syllabus there. And the syllabus lists everything out step by step. There's a little how-to at the beginning and then each module. And if you have never run this before with your troop and you're nervous about it, print it out and read through it. And I think after you read through it, it won't be nearly as scary to look at because you can see how simple and step by step it is to run with your troop. The other thing is, we adults don't always know what we're doing, and we have to model that for the kids that I don't know, but I will find out and I will learn and bring it back. And so when we can say, I don't know, but I will learn, that teaches the kids that it's okay to ask for help and to learn new things.
Yeah, that's great. Rob says the teamwork games are always fun for the Scouts. I think you mentioned earlier, Angelique, that let's talk about that maybe real quick, the games. Did you mention earlier that you do have the option of maybe skipping some of those or how much leeway do you have with that?
You do. You have some leeway. It gives you options for the games. I would never take the games out. The games, I think, are important learning opportunity, and scouting We do games with a purpose, right? We have games because they teach something, and learning is a lot more memorable when it's fun. So the games have a point, and while you could skip them if you were pressed for time, I really would encourage you to do the games, because that's what's going to be more memorable for the kids. That's going to make it a lot more fun.
John echoes what Gwen said earlier. They normally have scouts attend a council session for he said ISLT, correct me wrong, ILST, that's okay, before going to NYLT. However, we would like to start our unit running its own program. That's exactly the idea. I think, John,
Yeah.
No worries, no stress. As Angelique said, just do your best. Right. I think that's always a good motto we can always all fall back on.
Motto. We can borrow the Cub Scout motto. Absolutely.
Yes, exactly. This has been a great discussion, Angelique. Before we let you go, any final thoughts on ILST, one of the many acronyms that we need to remember as Scouters? Any final thoughts on the importance of it and the value of it and things like that?
Sure. I mean, if your unit isn't doing it, if your unit isn't running it, no shade. Just look it up, consider it. Your youth might be like, we don't need it. Try it. You might find that it's helping some of the scouts who are more hesitant to take a leadership role get a little more comfortable with it. And I really like the resources are there. If we use them, cool things happen in our units.
Yeah, it's very much like having a toolbox in your garage that is full of all kinds of useful stuff. Sure, you don't have to use them if you don't want to, but they are useful. They were designed for a reason. And I think the point Angelique makes is great. Give it a shot and see how it goes. And there's no shame in asking for help. There's no shame in going to a fellow scoutmaster, a fellow leader in your area. By the way, a great way to meet people like that is roundtable. I think we've done shows before about going to local roundtables. So, if you've never done it before, go to your next roundtable and ask them, hey, what do you guys think about ILST? Anybody can help us out. We're trying to get our unit started. That's a great way to do that. This has been a great discussion, Angelique. As always, this video will stay here once we're done. Feel free to tag a friend, share it with other folks. Let them know that you found it interesting. Maybe they'll find it interesting too. Angelique, thank you so much for the time today. Good to see you as always. Safe travels. I know you're headed out soon. Safe travels.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all for watching at home. We appreciate it. Enjoy the rest of your Wednesday. Bye, everybody.
Bye.